So last week, Chicago looked dismal for three quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, when we all thought Mitchell Trubisky was done, he pulled a rabbit out of his butt and somehow, some way, saved not only his starting job, but maybe Chicago's season. Now, week two, they got the New York Giants who are licking their wounds after a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So please bring in Eddie BW, Ben Weiser in. Ben, Ben. All right, now I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, so I'm going to keep it real. Why the hell did this franchise pass up on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes for Mitchell Trubisky?
Because they knew John Fox was out. He was the only guy in the entire organization that wanted Deshaun Watson. And so they said, hey, he's leaving anyway, and everybody else wants Mitch. We'll take Mitch. Why they traded up one spot for him when the Niners weren't going to take him in the first place, I don't have an answer for that.
What's the status of David Montgomery, sir? He looked gimpy week one.
You know, I was just looking at their injury report earlier. Nothing about Montgomery. Not even, sitting out practice, being limited. Not that I remember seeing anyway. I think that he might have rushed back, but when you look at how the Bears are trying to start this run offense this year, they need to have a bigger guy like him. Patterson, Cohen, they're more of those fast burner guys. Got to have somebody that can pound the rock up the middle. I think he's probably going to be better this week, just like I think Robert Quinn's going to be better this week, and it's completely going to change that defense.
All right, you know where I'm going, and I noticed that you didn't mention the name, so I'm going to mention it. Allen Robinson basically made some headlines by saying he wants out of Chicago. Now, let's be honest with each other. He's still a top premier wide receiver, but he's not getting fed, bro. A, do they trade Allen Robinson? B, how long until Nick Foles starts? Or C, can they make amends and get this fixed?
All right, so first and foremost, the reason Taylor Gabriel isn't on the team is because the Bears don't know how to manage wide receivers. If they were smart, they would have traded him last year, but instead they let him go all the way to free agency and got nothing for him. Allen Robinson, I don't think they make that same mistake twice, so they're either going to pay him or they're going to trade him, I would hope. Now, a lot of things Mitch did at the end of the game last week are promising to help Robinson's production go up. Mitch is one of those guys that he depends on those reliable targets over the middle. Like, that's why they went out and got Jimmy Graham. He's a proven commodity. Anthony Miller, they needed him to produce this year, and so far he has. Seems like he came in with a different attitude this year. And him coming out of the slot position really helps Mitch establish the pass game. That last pass was outside the numbers. It was a deep throw for Mitch, and that was a game-winning score for the Bears. So I think you let Mitch throw to Graham, you let Mitch throw to Miller, he starts getting that confidence, he starts making better throws, and that's going to open up Allen Robinson's game a lot more for him as well.
All right, now, you and I both know that Chicago Bears defense is legit, but here's a problem I noticed. Adrian Peterson, after being cut from the Washington football team, had 93 yards rushing. DeAndre Swift, who got his legs underneath him, was a little bit of a mismatch problem and missed the game-winning touchdown. And Kerryon Johnson, the odd man out, had a couple of yards too. If my numbers are correct, I'm thinking 148 yards rushing on the ground from Detroit. Enter Saquon Barkley, who was held to 26 yards. What's the plan?
Sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good, right? I mean, DeAndre Swift, nobody's going to remember he scored his first career touchdown this game. Nobody, because he dropped the game-winning touchdown at the end. Saquon Barkley and the Giants, they had the bad luck of fumbling forward into the end zone and getting called an incomplete pass when they recovered in the end zone. So right now, luck's kind of leaning towards the Bears' way. Hopefully that continues. Looking at that defense, though, Eddie Goldman opted out because of COVID-19 concerns. Danny Trevathan missed most of last season. Akeem Hicks, who is also, on that interior line, missed most of last season. And then you got Bilal Nichols, who didn't get a ton of playing time last year, filling up that spot for Eddie Goldman. So that interior of the line, and not to mention Robert Quinn was missing on that edge. Interior of the line, linebacker position, they're still getting their legs underneath them. I mean, we talked about Mitch earlier. His first three quarters were basically his whole preseason, and we got to see a finished product in the fourth quarter. that Bears defense looked a lot better in that fourth quarter as well. I mean, the secondary's always been great, still great, showed out last week. And I think they're going to be able to get this stuff all figured out. And hey, a game under their belts, who knows what happens.
Evan Ingram was quiet, but then again, Pittsburgh likes to cover the tight end. That front seven hit Saquon Barkley in the mouth, but you know who they didn't cover? Darius Slayton. He's making a bit of a name for himself, and he's bigger than Fuller, who I believe is going to be covering Slayton in this game. What's the plan? Because Daniel Dimes is not afraid to take chances.
No, he's not. Dollar store Eli Manning will do whatever he can do to try and get the ball in anywhere he can. He's kind of got that complex of I've got to do more because I don't have everything around me. Because if he's not handing the ball off or Saquon's not going out for a dump off route, he doesn't have all the targets that he needs to be successful, in my opinion. Now, you mentioned Fuller's smaller than Slayton. That might be true, but you put Eddie Jackson on that side, all of a sudden you've got a really tough double team for him to try and overcome. And I don't think anybody can overcome a double team from Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller.
All right, one last question. We talked about Ingram. We talked about Barkley. We talked about Slayton. But here's something that we're not talking about. The element of the dollar store Eli Manning. Now, Danny Dimes is unpredictable. He beats the teams he's not supposed to beat, and he loses to the teams that he's not supposed to lose to. So let's be honest. What are your expectations of Daniel Jones?
It's interesting, right? He's always a wild card. It's just like Eli Manning. You never expected that guy to beat Tom Brady, especially with as much struggles as his older brother, the better quarterback, had against him. But what's interesting, like I said earlier about Daniel Jones, is that he tries to do too much. Tom Brady can't do too much. We saw how that worked for him with the Buccaneers last week. We've seen other quarterbacks try and force the game too much, and I think that's kind of what Daniel Jones ran into last week. He tried to make a pass on Monday night, rolls out. He's got a guy in the back of the end zone, but there's 5 Steelers defenders at the front. His arm gets hit, and that ball just floats to the defensive lineman. As long as he makes stupid mistakes like that, as long as he takes those stupid chances to try and make that game-changing play, it's going to continue to come up bad for him because, like I also said before, he doesn't have the guys around him that he needs.
All right. Now, Ben, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Week 4, I believe you play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, I'm in between Saints and Bucks. I'm covering both, but I will be giving you smoke. Prepare yourself, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Welcome to the carousel. You're welcome to dishing, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Either you're on or you're off.
Carousel, yeah. Carousel, yeah. Carousel, this the carousel. On or you're off, either you're on or you're off, either you're on or you're off. What? Knock 'em out. Carousel, yeah. Carousel, yeah. Carousel, this the carousel. On or you're off, either you're on or you're off, either you're on or you're off. What?